The story begins with a little girl named Marie welcoming her parents home. They say she must have been lonely all by herself, but Marie replies that she wasn't, because Rose was with her. They also ask if she behaved while they were away. She says she did, and her parents immediately show her what they brought back with them, a baby. It's Marie's little brother, Cheyenne. Marie can't help thinking that her brother is incredibly cute, so she kisses him on the cheek. The sudden kiss catches the baby by surprise, and Marie proudly introduces herself as his big sister. 3 years later, the siblings are racing each other. Of course, Marie is faster than Cheyenne, and she says it's only natural after all, she's his big sister. Their father then arrives home, and Cheyenne complains that his big sister has far too much energy. Their father laughs and says he can see that Marie is as energetic as ever. Marie says people often tell her she's as bright as the sun, just like the color of her hair. Their father replies that it's good to be home and tells Cheyenne that he looks as dependable as ever. Cheyenne immediately denies it, saying that Marie is the dependable one. Once again, Marie insists that it's only natural since she's his big sister. Still, she thinks to herself that Cheyenne actually is dependable. He's always helping their mother, and he says he doesn't wet the bed anymore. Sometimes he even gets a worried, grown-up look on his face. On the other hand, she's also caught him shouting things like fireball, thunderbolt, wind blast, and ice storm when he's alone, so she knows that even Cheyenne secretly plays pretend sometimes. During dinner, Cheyenne says there's something he wants to ask his father. Do monsters exist? His father answers that they do. That's why Cheyenne must never leave the property. He's sure Cheyenne's mother has already told him this, but monsters are dangerous and attack people. If Cheyenne were to encounter one, his life would be in danger. If he ever sees a monster, he must run away immediately and seek help from an adult. Cheyenne then asks his next question. Do things like fairies and spirits exist too? His father replies that they do. Well, to be precise, he doesn't know of any spirits, but fairies definitely exist. They're rare, so it's unlikely to ever meet one, but some traders specialize in obtaining them. Encouraged by these answers, Cheyenne asks the question that seems to matter most to him. He wants to know if magic exists in their world. He describes magic as the ability to create things like fire, water, and light out of nothing. His father, however, looks at him with genuine confusion, stating that he has never even heard the word magic before. Even when Cheyenne presses him, asking if it might just be a rare secret, his father insists that as a well-educated man, he would have heard of it if it were known to the public. He asks Cheyenne where he could have possibly learned such a strange word. Seeing her brother turn pale and fall into a silent state of shock, Marie asks if his stomach hurts, but Cheyenne simply claims he is fine. From that moment on, Cheyenne never speaks the word magic again, retreating into a quiet, studious life. Another 3 years go by, and the siblings' paths continue to diverge. Marie has dedicated herself to intense physical training, spending her days sweating in the sun as she practices her combat forms. When Cheyenne asks her why she pushes herself so hard, Marie gives her standard answer. She does it because she is his big sister. When he admits he doesn't understand the connection, she explains that she is training for the day something bad happens. She wants to be ready if monsters or villains ever appear because she has realized she has a natural talent for physical activity. Most importantly, she tells Cheyenne that she is doing all of this so that she can protect him. Cheyenne is moved by the realization that his sister's grueling daily routine is motivated entirely by her love for him. Marie admits that while she isn't the smartest person, she is good at the physical stuff and wants to ensure she is strong enough to help if he ever gets into trouble. Sometime later, Marie is practicing her sword swings by a lake while her friend Rose watches. Rose points out that Marie has been training all day and says she's surprised Marie doesn't get bored. In response, Marie asks Rose to spar with her. Of course, Rose refuses, using the excuse that she's exhausted from helping her grandfather. Rose then asks whether Cheyenne is still holed up in the house, spending every day studying like always. When Marie confirms it, Rose comments that the siblings are truly a study in contrasts. Meanwhile, Marie thinks to herself that Cheyenne's desperate need to study probably began the day he realized the world lacked the magic he was searching for. Just then, glowing balls of light mysteriously begin to rise from the surface of the lake, startling both girls. Later, hoping to lift his spirits, Marie leads Cheyenne to the lake as the day starts to fade. Cheyenne is nervous and reminds her that their mother warned them not to wander too far, but Marie reassures him that they're safe and that there are no monsters around. Their mother might get angry, but Marie is convinced this will be worth it. Just before sunset, beautiful orbs of light drift over the water. Marie doesn't know why it happens, only that it does. Cheyenne asks if their parents know about this, and Marie replies that they do. She brought them here as soon as she discovered it. Strangely, though, they couldn't see the lights. She admits she was a little worried that Cheyenne might not be able to see them either. Cheyenne wonders if it's only adults who can't see them, but Marie explains that some children can't see them either. It seems everyone perceives the lights differently. For her, they blink in and out, while some kids see them as solid, glowing spheres. It's incredibly mysterious, but also kind of like magic, isn't it? She reminds Cheyenne that he once talked about magic creating light and other things. It feels similar to that. Cheyenne is surprised that she remembers. Marie explains that her memory isn't great, but this was about her little brother. Of course she remembers. Besides, it was after that conversation that Cheyenne became so depressed. Overwhelmed, Cheyenne apologizes through his tears. Marie calls him hopeless and asks if he feels a little better now. He says he feels much better, and Marie is relieved. The next morning, the children finish breakfast in record time so they can rush to the lake. They arrive long before sunset because Cheyenne wants to investigate. First, he wants to find out where the orbs of light come from. Marie doesn't quite understand. Don't they come from the lake? Cheyenne agrees that's possible, but says they might also be coming from something living in the water. Without proper investigation, they'll never know what the lights really are. Marie doesn't fully follow his reasoning, but if Cheyenne says so, it must be right. She asks where they should start. Cheyenne explains that they'll fill the 3 buckets they brought with lake water. One will contain sand and rocks, another aquatic plants, and the last fish. While they're trying to catch a fish, Cheyenne says he's really glad his sister is there with him. Naturally, Marie replies that of course she is. She's his big sister. Why wouldn't she be with him? She had some free time and Cheyenne really wanted to do this. It's only natural that she help him. And if something like magic really does exist, she wants to see it too. Cheyenne says it would be wonderful if magic truly exists. If it does, Marie will be the first person he tells. That's a promise. Eventually, they manage to catch a trout and place it in one of the buckets. Soon after, Rose arrives at the lake and finally meets Marie's younger brother. Marie urges Cheyenne to say hello, and he does. Rose introduces herself dramatically as a solitary flower blooming in this desolate town, but Marie quickly drags her back down to earth, saying Rose is just an ordinary commoner putting on airs. Naturally, Rose gets angry, then asks what they're doing out here. Marie explains that Cheyenne knows about the orbs of light too. Realizing Rose is familiar with them, Cheyenne asks if she came because she's curious about the lights as well. Rose admits she did. They're beautiful, and she comes to see them sometimes. Cheyenne asks if she knows anything about what causes them or what they really are, but Rose says she simply enjoys watching them. She doesn't know anything more. As the lights begin to appear again, nothing happens in the buckets. Cheyenne says he tried to recreate the lake as closely as possible, then asks if there are other creatures living in the water besides trout. The girls agree there probably are many, but collecting all of them would be difficult. They don't even know how many different kinds might live there. In that case, Cheyenne decides to get into the lake himself. Marie doesn't hesitate and joins him. The first thing Cheyenne does is touch one of the lights. It's warm, slightly ticklish, and oddly pleasant. He then tries to look underwater, but the water is too murky to see anything clearly. Still, he learns one important thing. The lights are coming from something living underwater, possibly even a fish. It's not a plant. Whatever it is, it moves, because the points of light shift around. However, he still can't identify exactly what creature is producing them. Afterward, they climb out of the lake. Cheyenne takes the opportunity to thank Marie for her help, but she tells him there's no need. They're family. There's no need to thank each other for every little thing. Cheyenne insists anyway, saying that being family doesn't mean he should hold back his gratitude. Marie finally gives in and says that if he insists, then so be it. Just then, Rose announces that she caught something, a female trout. It's common to catch males, but females usually stay in deeper water, so they're rarely caught. However, since it's spawning season, they come closer to the shallows. Rose places the trout into the bucket with the other trout. The moment she does, orbs of light begin to emerge from the trout. At that instant, Cheyenne finally understands what's happening. It's courting behavior. The glowing orbs are part of the trout's courtship display. Marie doesn't know what courting behavior is, so she asks. Rose explains that it's how a male tells a female, in simple terms, let's marry and become a family. Marie immediately responds that in that case, she and Cheyenne don't need courtship behavior. They're already family. Then, she wonders aloud whether being a girl while Cheyenne is a boy means she'll eventually lay eggs. Cheyenne quickly corrects her, insisting that she won't lay eggs and that siblings can't get married. Marie asks why not. Doesn't Cheyenne love her? Cheyenne answers that he does love her. Marie brightens and says that if that's the case, then it's fine, because she loves him too. The next day, Marie tells Cheyenne that their mother scolded her. When Marie said she was going to marry Cheyenne, their mother responded exactly the same way Cheyenne had. Marie wonders if what she's saying is really so terrible. She just wants to be with Cheyenne forever. Cheyenne says he wants to be with her too, but that they don't need to get married for that. Marie argues that marriage is special, and if they don't marry each other, then someday they'll marry other people. If that happens, they won't be together anymore. Cheyenne replies that in that case, he simply won't get married. He'll stay with Marie. When Marie asks whether that would cause trouble for their father, Cheyenne says that if the issue is an heir, one can always be adopted. It wouldn't be easy, but he's serious. He wants to stay with her too. He may still be a child, but he isn't lying. If she wants, he'll swear it to her. Marie points out that what he just said carries an even heavier responsibility than promising to marry her. But Cheyenne says it doesn't feel heavy at all because she's important to him, so everything will be fine. They hug, and suddenly Cheyenne begins to glow. He thinks it might be magical energy. He had been watching the glowing orbs from the Trout's courtship display so closely that the phenomenon imprinted itself inside him without his realizing it. And saying he would never marry for Marie's sake, that was the greatest confession of all, wasn't it? Embarrassed by the thought, Marie storms out of the room. Left alone, Cheyenne reflects that magic doesn't exist in this world, not because it's impossible, but because the techniques known as magic haven't been invented yet. And in this world he has been reincarnated into, he decides he will create magic himself. After that, we see a man on the eve of his 30th birthday. The man who would become Cheyenne stands alone, counting down the final seconds with his heart hammering against his ribs. He had clung to a peculiar urban legend that men who remained virgins until the age of 30 would gain the power of magic. As the clock strikes 0, he shouts into the void, calling for fireballs, thunderbolts, and creatures of the abyss to appear, but the air remains cold and still. The realization crashes down on him with crushing force. There is no such thing as magic. The world is ordinary, dull, and governed only by the endless cycle of work and sleep. Moments later, he appears to suffer a heart attack. Yet even as he faces death in that world, his obsession refuses to fade. He had lived in an age overflowing with information, where any mystery could be solved with a quick search, but nothing in that digital sea had ever stirred his emotions like the dream of the unknown. That dream was the only thing that kept him going. Even though he knew deep down that such things were impossible, he believed that if you didn't try, you could never truly know. Back in the New World, Cheyenne reflects that in his second life, at the age of 6, he had nearly lost sight of his reason for living. However, his recent discovery at the lake changed everything. Cheyenne tests his theory again, attempting to summon a fireball. While nothing materializes, he doesn't feel the despair he once felt in his previous life. He is now treading carefully, knowing he has found something remarkably close to the power he seeks. His concentration is suddenly interrupted when Marie bursts into the room without warning. Cheyenne chides her, telling her she should knock first, but Marie playfully teases him, asking if he has something to be embarrassed about. Cheyenne admits that as he gets older, he likely will, but for now, he realizes her arrival is perfect timing. He asks his sister to sit with him, despite her protest that she has only come to tell him it is time for a snack. Looking her in the eyes, Cheyenne confesses that he loves her. The sudden, intense declaration sends Marie into a stuttering, blushing mess. Seeing how his body reacts, Cheyenne confirms his suspicion. The act of professing his feelings releases a surge of magical energy. He briefly worries if he will have to make such confessions every time he wants to use magic, wondering if that is simply the way the world works. Marie, sensing she is being used as an experimental subject, accuses him of treating her like a toy. Cheyenne quickly tries to reassure her, insisting that while the courting behavior of the fish inspired the experiment, his feelings for her are genuine. Marie, who is always easy for her brother to win over, forgives him instantly and becomes curious to know if he has discovered anything else. Cheyenne explains that the release of energy isn't limited to just confessions of love. He theorizes that by professing his feelings, he is simply becoming more aware of his own powerful emotions. He decides to try tapping into other sensations like fun, hope, excitement, and happiness. As he concentrates, his body begins to emit a soft, steady light. Marie watches in awe, confirming that he is indeed glowing. While Cheyenne is thrilled, he remains analytical, noting that simply glowing isn't particularly practical or useful in a fight. However, it proves a point that shatters common knowledge. Magic exists. He compares himself to an electric eel, theorizing that humans in this world might possess a special organ designed to sense or produce magical energy. He decides to call this state of being a magically charged state. Seeing his genuine, unfiltered happiness, Marie remarks that his laugh is a bit weird, but she is genuinely glad to see him so joyful. Over the next month, Xion refines his understanding of this new power. He discovers 5 fundamental rules of his magically charged state. First, it requires a high level of intense emotion, which is exhausting to maintain. Second, there is a daily limit. Once the energy is spent, he falls into a state of total lethargy. Third, expelling nearly all his energy seems to slowly increase his total capacity over time. Fourth, the state is invisible to anyone who doesn't have the potential to use magical energy themselves. Finally, he finds that he still cannot create independent balls of light like the fish do. This final point frustrates him deeply, and he wonders if he actually possesses less magical energy than a trout. He worries about hitting a dead end, but his past life's obsession keeps him from giving up. Recalling that the fish glow first and then emit the orbs, Xion decides to try moving the energy from his body into a specific limb. It is an agonizingly difficult task because he has to think emotionally to generate the charge while simultaneously thinking logically to move the energy to his right hand. Balancing these conflicting mental states feels impossible until he shifts his perspective and focuses on how happy he would be if the energy moved. Success comes in a flash of blinding light from his palm. Though it is just light and lacks any destructive power, it is a massive step forward. He dubs this technique Magic Gathering, and the result gathered magic. His internal training is soon balanced by external demands when his father, Gawain, announces that Xion and Rose will begin sword training alongside Marie. Gawain warns them that even wooden swords can be lethal and that they must never lose focus. While Xion questions the need for swordsmanship, his father reminds him that the world beyond the town is teeming with monsters. The training session highlights the stark difference between the children. Xion proves to be remarkably ill-suited for the blade, a fact that even he has to admit. Rose, however, shows great potential, earning praise from Gawain. But it is Marie who truly excels. When she sparred with her father, her movements are so fast, they are almost a blur. Though her father critiques her for having movements that were too large, he is clearly impressed, predicting she will be a formidable warrior in a few years. As Xion continues to practice, he finds that he can now enter a charged state 20 times a day, but his progress is slowing down. He feels he needs a new perspective. Then, his father invites the children on a trip to Istria, a mid-sized town in their region. The journey is long and bumpy, leaving the children sore, but it is a vital opportunity for Xion to see the world. In town, Xion feels the limitations of his age. He wants to scout for clues about magic, but knows he has to stay close to his parents. He resolves to take mental notes for the day he can travel alone. He noticed Marie acting strangely restless, though she denies anything is wrong when he questions her. Their final stop is a smithy owned by an old friend of their father named Grast. The man is blunt and rough-spoken, having prepared a special order for them. He presents a high-quality sword, shortened and lightened specifically for a child's hands, with a beautifully decorated scabbard. It is a birthday gift for Marie. Marie feels bad that she is receiving such a fine gift while Xion gets nothing, but Xion tells her not to fret. He reminds her that he doesn't particularly want a sword, and is happy for her. Marie suggests that Xion should try being more selfish sometimes, but Xion argues that he is already selfish in the way he always relies on her. As they are leaving the town, Xion's eyes catch a sign on a nearby shop. When he asks about it, his father's tone shifts, and he tells Xion it is a place he doesn't need to know about. Xion apologizes for his curiosity, but the image remains burned into his mind. The sign identifies the shop as a fairy seller. In a world that supposedly lacks magic, a shop specializing in magical creatures is the most important clue he has ever found. Inside the quiet safety of their home, Xion focuses on the small light hovering in the palm of his hand. Marie watches with excited eyes as she counts the seconds out loud. When she reaches 10, she cheers, announcing that he has set a brand new record. While she is thrilled for him, Xion feels a lingering sense of disappointment. He thanks his sister for her help, but his face remains serious. He explains to her that while he can release more magical energy than before, simply making a hand glow does not feel like real magic yet. He wants to create something spectacular, like a soaring fireball or a crackling bolt of lightning. Xion drifts into his own world, thinking deeply about the mechanics of his power. He mumbles to himself about the connection between human emotion, intent, and the natural world. He wonders if there is a specific ratio of these feelings that triggers a physical phenomenon. He begins to ponder the strange fairy sellers, who trade creatures that look like tiny people, a concept his father clearly finds distasteful. He also considers the nature of monsters, but his internal monologue is cut short when Marie finally shouts his name in frustration, feeling ignored. Xion quickly apologizes. The peaceful atmosphere of the house shatters when heavy footsteps and urgent voices echo from downstairs. Cheyenne and Marie rush to find their father issuing orders to his men to gather weapons from the storage room. Gawain looks at his children and explains that goblins have been spotted near the village. Cheyenne's first instinct is one of scientific curiosity. He thinks to himself that this is a perfect opportunity to study a monster and perhaps learn something new about magical energy. However, he quickly notices the oppressive atmosphere of fear hanging over the adults. He realizes that for the people of this village, a goblin is not a weak enemy from a game, but a life-threatening disaster. Gawain orders that all women, children, and the elderly be brought to the mansion for protection. Marie tries to put on a brave face, telling Cheyenne that their father will handle everything, and promising that she will protect him herself. Before the men depart for the goblin lair, Cheyenne stops his father to ask about the physical capabilities of the creatures. Gawain confirms that goblins are not very intelligent and cannot climb smooth exterior walls. Based on this, Cheyenne suggests that the villagers hide on the second floor while barricading the doors with heavy furniture. Gawain agrees to the plan and tells Cheyenne he is counting on him to keep everyone safe. Hours pass in a suffocating silence as the villagers huddle together on the upper floor. The tension reaches a breaking point when the sound of heavy scratching echoes from the main entrance below. Marie asks hopefully if it might be their father returning, but Cheyenne points out that there was no agreed-upon signal. Suddenly, the sound of breaking glass rings through the house. A goblin has successfully breached the mansion. The bedroom door opens, and a hideous, green-skinned creature stalks into the room. Seeing the monster, Cheyenne curses his earlier curiosity, realizing how foolish he was to think of researching something so dangerous. Their mother, Emma, immediately steps in front of her children, her voice trembling as she begs the monster not to hurt them. However, she is so paralyzed by terror that she collapses to the floor. The goblin mocks her weakness with a cruel laugh. Marie refuses to back down and draws her sword, stepping forward to defend her family. The goblin effortlessly slaps the weapon out of her hand with a single strike. As the monster raises its claws to kill Marie, Emma lunges forward and takes the blow. The room erupts in screams as Marie watches her mother bleed. Seeing his family on the brink of death, a cold, protective rage ignites within Cheyenne. He knows that if he does not act, his mother and sister will be slaughtered. He ignores the warnings of the other villagers and lunges at the goblin, grabbing its arm with his small hands. As he makes contact, he sees something incredible, a faint light radiating from the monster's body. He realizes it is magical energy. Cheyenne focuses every bit of his will, commanding his own magic to gather at the point of contact. He pours his energy into the monster's limb, concentrating it until the heat becomes unbearable. The goblin shrieks in pain, desperately trying to shake the boy off. Cheyenne does not give up. He grips the monster's head, channeling an even greater surge of magical energy directly into the creature's skull. The air fills with the smell of burnt flesh as the goblin finally collapses, dead. Cheyenne stands over the corpse, trembling as he asks himself if he really just killed a monster. While the immediate threat is gone, a new crisis begins. Emma is deathly pale, having lost a massive amount of blood from the wound on her back. Marie is in a state of hysterical grief, clinging to her mother and screaming. Rose steps in to calm Marie while Cheyenne takes command of the room. He realizes there is no doctor or pharmacist among the villagers, so he has to rely on the medical knowledge he remembers from his previous life in Japan. Cheyenne asks if anyone knows how to sew, and a young woman named Leah steps forward. He gives out rapid-fire instructions, telling the villagers to bring sewing tools, strong liquor to act as an antiseptic, and clean cloths. He also orders them to move the goblin's body out of the room to keep the area as clean as possible. When the supplies arrive, Cheyenne uncovers his mother's wound. He is relieved to see it hasn't hit her spine, but it still needs to be closed immediately. He tells Leah they are going to perform sutures, a concept that is completely foreign to her. She is terrified, arguing that she couldn't possibly wound her lady further by piercing her skin with a needle. Cheyenne speaks to her with a gravity far beyond his years, telling her that she must either wound her to save her or leave her to die. Moved by his determination, Leah follows his instructions and carefully stitches the wound shut. Once the bleeding is controlled, Cheyenne comforts his sister, telling her that everything is going to be all right. Gawain and his men return later that evening, having cleared the goblin lair. A doctor eventually arrives and examines the stitches, expressing shock at how neatly the wound was treated. He asks if a medical expert was present, and Gawain simply says it was something like that, allowing the doctor to leave the matter alone for now. Once the house is quiet, Gawain pulls Cheyenne and Marie aside. He reveals that the villagers told him everything, including how Xion killed the monster with fire and treated his mother with unknown medical skills. He asks Xion how he could possibly know these things. Xion cannot reveal his past life, so he simply says he just knew. Gawain then asks if the marks on the goblin were caused by magic. When Xion confirms it, Gawain's face darkens with worry. He warns Xion that in this world, being different is dangerous. He commands Xion to stop his research immediately for his own safety. Marie tries to defend her brother, arguing that his magic is what saved them. But Gawain insists that a power capable of killing monsters is too dangerous to exist in a child's hands. Xion looks his father in the eye and declares that he will not stop. He understands the danger and the logic behind his father's fear, but he explains that magic is his dream. He tells Gawain that if he gives up his research, he will be miserable for the rest of his life. He is so serious about his path that he tells his father he can disown him if his presence becomes a problem for the family. Stunned by his son's maturity and resolve, Gawain finally relents. He realizes that he cannot stop a child who is this determined. He gives Xion permission to continue his research on one condition. He must report all his findings to his father. He promises that as long as Xion is not doing anything too dangerous, he will support him. Gawain tells Xion to hold his head high because he has found his purpose in life, and he promises to help him as a parent should. True to his word, Gawain begins to support Xion's curiosity by helping him set up his first real experiment. Gawain lights a bonfire and asks Xion if the flame is sufficient for his needs. Xion confirms that it is and approaches the heat, explaining that he wants to see what happens when gathered magic energy interacts with a high-level magical source or natural phenomena. As Xion concentrates his energy, his hand suddenly erupts into bright flames. He panics, shouting that he is on fire, which prompts Gawain to immediately douse him with a bucket of water. Marie rushes over, frantic and scolding Xion for being so reckless. She checks him for burns and asks what he could possibly have been thinking. Xion apologizes for the scare, but remains incredibly excited. He explains that through this dangerous moment, he has learned a vital secret. He describes how the red flames of the bonfire turned blue when they touched his magic energy, proving that his gathered magic acts as a sort of fuel that amplifies the fire. Gawain admits that while he cannot see the magical energy himself, the visible change in the fire is proof enough to believe his son's claims. Xion is moved by his father's trust, while Marie admits she is still confused by the technical details. To cheer her up, Xion reminds her that he only discovered this energy because of her, which makes Marie beam with pride. In his mind, Xion realizes he has just taken the first step toward creating fire magic. He makes a strange, intense face of happiness, which Marie explains is just his habit whenever he makes a magical breakthrough. Xion reflects on how even a terrifying world can be full of wonder when there is so much to learn. The following days turn into a grueling routine of trial and error. Xion continues his research with Gawain standing by as a constant safety net, water bucket in hand. Over and over, Xion gathers magic and touches the fire, resulting in his hand catching light and Gawain splashing him. They test different temperatures and different amounts of magic energy. Xion notes that the smoke is dark gray and the flames remain blue, but the temperature of the magic fire doesn't seem to change. Despite the repeated shocks and the drenching water, Xion's spirit doesn't waver. Gawain eventually suggests they take a break, offering his son a warm drink and showing a level of care that surprises Xion. While they rest, Rose approaches. She sees that Xion is soaking wet and asks if this is another magic experiment. Xion explains the connection between his energy and the fire, mentioning that Gawain is now his primary assistant. Rose is impressed by how understanding Gawain has become. Xion takes a moment to thank Rose for being so considerate after the goblin attack, admitting that her kindness made him happy. Rose brushes off the thanks, insisting that Xion is the one who saved them all. She then asks where Marie is, noting that the girl is usually glued to Xion's side. Xion looks toward where his sister is training alone, and Rose suggests that Marie might still be struggling with the events of the goblin fight. She advises Xion to make sure Marie knows he is on her side, as that is likely what she needs most. After many sessions, Xion organizes his findings for his internal records. He realizes several key points. Energy volume. The more magic he gathers, the larger the resulting flame becomes. Trigger temperature. As long as a heat source is high enough, it will ignite the magic energy. Conductivity. Only the regular fire spreads to his hand, while the magic charged state acts as a catalyst. Material interaction. Magic can be gathered through clothing like gloves, but the clothing will burn if the energy ignites. Cheyenne concludes that while interesting, the energy is currently too dangerous for practical use because it acts like a volatile, flammable gas. Cheyenne realizes his biggest hurdle is that he cannot move the magic away from his body. He wants to create orbs of fire like the trout do, but he doesn't know how to release the energy. When he voices this frustration, Marie and Rose casually mention that they can already do that. To Cheyenne's shock, Marie demonstrates it instantly, explaining she just followed his own descriptions of how magic works. Rose admits she thought Cheyenne could do it too, which is why she never brought it up. Cheyenne feels like a novice compared to their natural talent, but listens as they teach him to imagine drawing the energy out of his hand without releasing it all at once. With this new technique, Cheyenne takes everyone outside for a final test. Instead of using a bonfire, he uses a handheld fire striker. He releases a small orb of magic and strikes a spark into it. The orb ignites into a floating ball of fire and shoots forward. Gawain is stunned, realizing he has just witnessed true magic. Rose and Marie are equally impressed. Cheyenne is overcome with joy, realizing that after 30 years, including his previous life, he has finally used magic of his own creation. He names this prototype spell Flare. Though it isn't strong enough for combat yet, it is a monumental success that makes him wear his creepy face of progress once again. As the month passes, Cheyenne finds that his research into Flare has stalled. The more commands he gives the magic to move, the weaker the fire becomes. He notices Marie is also pushing herself too hard. Her hands are chafed from sword practice, and she seems on edge. Gawain tries to get her to rest, but she insists on continuing. Sensing the tension, Cheyenne decides to pivot his research to a new topic, lightning magic. He asks Gawain if there are any animals or plants that produce electricity. Gawain says there are no such living things, but he remembers Grast mentioning something similar. They travel to the city of Istria to see Grast, who confirms the existence of lightning ore. He explains that it is a mineral found in mines that constantly discharges electricity, making it dangerous and difficult to transport. Cheyenne is thrilled but realizes he needs an insulator to handle it safely. He asks about rubber trees, but Grast has never heard of them. Cheyenne then shifts to his second option, mica, which he calls paper crystal. Grast happens to have some and shows it to Cheyenne. Cheyenne realizes this transparent, layered mineral is exactly what he needs for electrical insulation. When Cheyenne asks where to get more, Grast tells him it can be bought in the trade district for 4,000 realm. Cheyenne is hesitant because of the high price, but Gawain steps in as a doting father. He tells Cheyenne that children shouldn't worry about costs, and insists on buying it, expressing his pride that Cheyenne is finally relying on him. They return home, and Cheyenne conducts an experiment with the ore and his magic. It is a resounding success. The magic doesn't catch fire, but instead creates powerful sparks. Cheyenne realizes that magic mimics and amplifies whatever phenomenon it touches, meaning he could potentially use any type of magic he can imagine. That evening, Cheyenne lies in bed, thinking about how to turn this electricity into a shock he can fire from his hand. He realizes he has been too focused on making spheres of magic because that is what the trout do. He experiments with his energy and finds he can create various other shapes. This realization of total freedom excites him, and he rushes to find Marie to share the news. He discovers she isn't in her room and finds her training by the lake. Remembering Rose's advice, Cheyenne approaches her. He apologizes for his arrogance, admitting that he was so focused on his own magic that he forgot to be a true ally to her. Marie confesses her true feelings, admitting that she has been jealous of his strength. She explains that as the older sister, she felt it was her duty to protect him, but during the goblin attack, she was paralyzed by fear. She tells him that seeing his face reminds her of her own weakness, and she has been training desperately to become someone who can stand tall beside him. Cheyenne is heartbroken to hear how much she has been hurting. He hugs her and tells her he is sorry for not seeing her pain. He promises to be her ally, and tells her that if she ever feels overwhelmed, she should throw all her frustrations at him, and he will take them. Marie is comforted by his words, and the two reconcile. Cheyenne reflects on the fact that in this world, everyone, child or adult, is fighting their own difficult battles just to survive. The days following Cheyenne and Marie's reconciliation bring a new kind of atmosphere to the household. While the tension is gone, it is replaced by an overwhelming amount of affection from Marie, who now refuses to leave Cheyenne's side. And while Cheyenne appreciates the bond, he finds it difficult to focus on his work. One day, Cheyenne finally asks Marie if she can step back just a little bit. He explains that he is about to start a magical experiment and worries that she will be in danger if she stays too close. Marie looks hurt for a moment and asks if she is in his way, but Cheyenne quickly reassures her that she isn't the problem. He simply needs space to conduct his research safely. Satisfied with this explanation, Marie moves to a safe distance, allowing Cheyenne to begin his latest series of trials. Cheyenne has spent his time lately practicing how to gather and manipulate the shape of his magical energy. He discovers that he can stretch the energy into very thin, big shapes, though this doesn't actually increase the total amount of power he has. Instead, spreading it out makes the energy thinner and less effective. However, when he tries the opposite, condensing the energy into a tiny, concentrated point, the results are spectacular. The power of his fire magic increases visibly, a variation he decides to call gas flare. When he tries to apply this same logic to electricity, the results are less impressive. The small volume of energy only produces a few weak sparks. Still, the breakthrough is significant. He has gained the ability to emit energy and then command it to take whatever form he desires. His research takes a frightening turn during a lightning experiment. As he gathers magic, a bolt of lightning unexpectedly arches back toward him instead of moving away. Marie rushes to him, terrified that he has been hurt, but Cheyenne calms her down and says he is fine. He explains to Rose that magic is created by consuming energy, so it is only natural for the magic to follow the flow back to its source. He feels as though he is standing on the edge of a massive discovery, yet the true nature of magic still feels just out of reach. He wonders if the world itself is helping him invent these spells, given how smoothly his progress has been so far. The peaceful research session is interrupted by the arrival of Gawain and Grast. Grast looks incredibly guilty, and Gawain soon explains why. It turns out Grast tried to use Cheyenne's discovery about transporting lightning ore to start his own secret business. He moved a massive amount of ore to the city of Istria, hoping to make a fortune, but his plan failed miserably. The group travels to Istria to see the mess Grast has made. They find a storage room packed with glowing, crackling lightning ores. Grast admits that the ores are too dangerous and noisy to be used as a light source, and his customers have stopped buying them. He is being threatened with eviction from the warehouse if he doesn't find a solution within 3 days. He begs Cheyenne to use his ingenuity to help him sell the stock. Cheyenne agrees to try, though he warns Grast not to get his hopes too high. While examining the ores, Cheyenne notices they react violently when placed near each other. Grast shows him a piece of metal he managed to smelt from the ore, but it no longer reacts to magic or produces lightning. Cheyenne realizes the electricity was lost during the heating process. He asks his father for permission to try something unusual and uses his flare magic to provide the heat for a new round of smelting. Grast is absolutely stunned to see fire erupting from Cheyenne's palms. He demands to know what is happening, and the family casually explains that Cheyenne can use magic. Once Grast recovers from the shock, he begins smelting the ore using Cheyenne's magical fire. The result is a new success. The metal, which Cheyenne names Iron Lightning, retains its electrical properties even after being processed. For 3 days and nights, Grast works tirelessly to turn the new metal into products. Cheyenne helps him design 2 revolutionary items, the lightning lamp, which provides a bright, safe light source, and the lightning striker, which makes starting a fire effortless. The products are an instant hit, and Grast's shop is soon swamped with eager customers. Cheyenne's family gathers to celebrate the success. Emma gushes about how clever her son is, while Gawain expresses his deep pride. Marie, as usual, claims she always knew Cheyenne was amazing. Cheyenne is relieved that Marie isn't feeling jealous this time, though he admits to himself that he still doesn't fully understand how girls think. Grast tries to thank Cheyenne, calling him special and beginning to say something about Cheyenne's true nature, but Gawain sharply cuts him off. Emma quickly changes the subject to lunch, leaving Cheyenne wondering what Grast was about to reveal. Back at home, Cheyenne continues his theoretical research. He shows Marie and Rose an experiment involving a flame in a sealed container. When the oxygen runs out, the regular flame dies, but when Cheyenne uses flare, the magical fire keeps burning. He concludes that flame magic does not require oxygen. It uses magical energy as its sole fuel. This leads to an even bigger discovery. Cheyenne asks Marie to fire a ball of pure magical energy into his active flare spell. The resulting explosion is massive, far more powerful than the energy they put into it. Cheyenne realizes that magic energy acts exactly like air. It is a medium that reacts to physical substances and amplifies their natural characteristics. This is why his lightning magic always felt like it was hitting wind resistance. With this realization, Cheyenne asks Grast to create a special tool, leather gloves lined with paper crystal for insulation. With these gloves, Cheyenne is finally able to channel electricity safely and effectively. He fires a powerful bolt of lightning and triumphantly declares that his new spell, Bolt, is complete. The relief and joy of the moment are so great that Cheyenne bursts into tears. Marie teases him for being a crybaby, but the atmosphere is one of pure celebration. Late that night, Cheyenne gets up to use the bathroom and overhears the adults talking in the other room. Grast is arguing with Gawain, telling him that Cheyenne's magic is a valuable commodity that shouldn't be hidden. Gawain counters that Cheyenne is wise and won't grow arrogant, but he admits that he often forgets Cheyenne is just a child. Then, Gawain drops a bombshell. He tells Grast and Emma that he can't help but see Cheyenne as special because of the person who entrusted the boy to them. Cheyenne stands frozen in the hallway as the weight of those words sinks in. He realizes with a shock that he might not be related to Gawain, Emma, or Marie by blood at all. This realization creates a storm of confusion in his heart, but he chooses to push these heavy thoughts aside for now. He throws himself back into his magic practice. Standing in the open field, he channels his energy and unleashes a powerful bolt spell, watching with satisfaction as it strikes the target with perfect accuracy. Rose and Marie cheer for him, noting that his range has improved significantly. Cheyenne thanks them both for their help, feeling a bit more at ease. Marie smiles and tells him that as his big sister, it is only natural for her to support him. However, the memory of the conversation he overheard continues to haunt him. Cheyenne looks at Marie and remembers an old conversation they had when they were younger, where she wondered if she would eventually lay eggs because she was a girl. At the time, Cheyenne had insisted she wouldn't, and reminded her that siblings cannot get married. Now, knowing they aren't blood-related, his mind begins to race with complicated thoughts about their future relationship. He wonders if being step-siblings changes the rules of marriage, but the mere thought makes him feel like smoke is going to pour out of his head. To distract himself from this internal chaos, he decides to devote all his energy to investigating the nature of compound magic. Cheyenne spends his time meticulously documenting how different spells interact. He discovers that combining certain magical energies creates a synergistic effect that amplifies the power of his spells. When he applies this synergy to his flare spell, it evolves into its highest form, which he names Twin Flare. He does the same for Bolt, resulting in a devastating version called Line Volt. He also experiments with the timing of his mana release, finding that if he emits a second burst of magical energy as it touches a flare spell, it creates a powerful explosion known as Bomb Flare. If he adds even more energy, it becomes a double bomb flare. He tests various combinations, like mixing flare and bolt, but finds that some elements simply do not react with each other in the way he expects. The next day, Cheyenne takes his research to the lake under the watchful eyes of Rose and Marie. He wades into the water, intent on discovering how magical energy reacts in a liquid environment. He calls for the magic to gather, but he is frustrated when the results seem identical to his experiments in the open air. The girls watch him curiously, asking him to explain what he is doing. Cheyenne tells them that he wanted to see if emitting magic underwater would change its properties, but so far it just seems to float with a bit of resistance. He continues to mutter to himself about the lack of reaction between water and his current spells, leading the girls to realize he has entered one of his deep research trances again. Suddenly, the water around Cheyenne moves, lifting upward as if drawn by an invisible hand. The girls think their eyes might be playing tricks on them, but Cheyenne excitedly confirms that he ordered his magical energy to lift the water. They celebrate this discovery, realizing that Cheyenne has officially unlocked water magic. Cheyenne is pleased, but he realizes that simply lifting lake water isn't very practical for combat or daily life. He decides to try a different approach by attempting to gather the moisture present in the air. At first he struggles, only managing to make his hand feel slightly damp. He realizes that the volume of air he is targeting is too small, so he expands his magical energy into a massive sphere. He concentrates his power and successfully condenses the atmospheric moisture into a ball of water the size of his hand. Marie is stunned, asking where the water came from since it didn't come from the lake. Cheyenne explains that collecting water from the air requires less energy than manipulating a large body of water directly. He decides to name this new spell Aqua. The girls are delighted and spend the afternoon practicing the spell and playing with the water. Cheyenne reflects on his progress, noting that with fire, lightning, and water magic now in his repertoire, his development is reaching a new stage. Recognizing that he needs to test his magic against real threats, Cheyenne decides to embark on a monster hunting quest. He brings Rose and Marie to the city, where Grast leads them toward the Adventurers Guild. Grast is hesitant, repeatedly asking if they are sure they want to do this, and offering them chances to turn back. Marie stands firm, explaining that she wants to become strong enough to protect herself and Cheyenne. She believes that if she runs away now, She will be a coward forever. Rose agrees, showing no signs of fear. Cheyenne asks Grast to keep their registration a secret from his parents, and Grast gives his word. Inside the guild, Grast approaches the receptionist to register the 3 children. As a platinum rank adventurer, his endorsement carries weight, but the receptionist is shocked when another man steps forward to offer his support. It is Gawain, who reveals himself as a diamond rank adventurer. The receptionist is nearly speechless at the sight of such a high-ranking hero. Gawain tells the kids to go ahead and accept a quest, stating that they will have a long talk later. Once they are alone, the children all offer their deepest apologies for trying to sneak away. Gawain admits that he knew they were plotting something because Marie had been avoiding eye contact for days. He scolds them for attempting something so dangerous without telling him, but he also praises them for having the sense to bring Grast along as an escort. He tells them that there are no guarantees in the world, and that from now on, he will accompany them on such missions to ensure their safety. They head into the field where Gawain demonstrates his overwhelming strength by easily slaying monsters. Cheyenne is amazed by his father's power, wondering if there is even a point to them being there if Gawain can do everything himself. However, Gawain explains that he only thinned the herd. He tells them that a group of kobolds is returning from a hunt, and that the children will be the ones to fight them. He positions Marie and Rose at the front while keeping Cheyenne in the rear. When the kobolds arrive, Cheyenne takes the initiative. He casts a bomb flare, burning several monsters instantly. He is surprised by how effective the magic is against living creatures, but he realizes he isn't ready to cast again when the survivors charge at him. Marie leaps into action, swinging her sword and declaring that she won't let anyone touch her brother. Rose also joins the fray, expertly fending off the monsters. Cheyenne manages to recover, and finishes the rest with Line Volt and Twin Flare. Afterward, Marie tells Cheyenne that she was only able to fight because he was there, and Cheyenne realizes that blood relation doesn't matter. Marie is his one and only sister, and she truly cares for him. Gawain praises their performance and pushes them to keep moving, leading them to more monster dens to gain as much experience as possible. By the time they finish, the children are completely exhausted, barely able to lift their arms. While they rest and watch Gawain and Grast collect the spoils of battle, Cheyenne senses something coming from a nearby man-made structure. Despite the girls' warnings that it might be dangerous, Cheyenne investigates and finds a small fairy trapped in a cage. They all agree to set it free, watching with wonder as the beautiful creature flies away into the forest. When they return home at night, they are covered in dirt and scratches. Emma is waiting for them, and her expression darkens when she sees the state of the children. She turns her fury on Gawain, who desperately tries to apologize. She chases him with a candlestick, scolding him for pushing the children too hard on their very first hunt. Once she has finished punishing Gawain, she speaks gently to the children. She explains that she isn't angry about the hunt itself, but about the fact that they came home hurt. She tells them that she only wants them to take care of themselves because their lives are the most important thing to her. Cheyenne and Marie apologize for worrying her. As the day ends, Emma insists on a bath before supper. Cheyenne finds himself in a large wooden bathtub with Emma and Marie. He is incredibly flustered, his mind racing with the family labels as he tries to process the situation. He feels both awkward and deeply comforted as Emma scrubs his back and Marie chats happily about their day. Cheyenne thinks about the warmth of his family and the world of magic he now inhabits. He realizes that he is truly, deeply happy. 2 years slip by, and the world outside their peaceful home begins to grow more restless and shadowed. In a dense thicket on the outskirts of the region, a hobgoblin snarls, its eyes fixed on a target it perceives as easy prey. But Cheyenne, now 10 years old, is no longer the clumsy child he once was. He stands his ground, his mind racing through the complex physics of a new theory. He visualizes air magic not just as a push, but as a series of high and low pressure pockets. He carefully wraps these pockets in a thin, stabilizing membrane of magical energy, amplifying the tension until it reaches a breaking point. With a sharp focus, he releases the energy, creating a sudden and powerful gale that slams into the monster, defeating it instantly. He observes the results with a critical eye, naming the spell Blow. While he is pleased with the raw power of the wind, he acknowledges that the activation time is far too slow for most combat situations. Still, he notes its potential for utility, realizing that its primary function might not be direct attack at all. His thoughts are interrupted by the arrival of Marie and Rose, who emerge from the tree line after finishing their own skirmishes. Marie, now 12, proudly announces that she has slain 20 goblins on her own. Cheyenne offers his sincere praise, though his internal thoughts are busy elsewhere. Over the last 2 years, his ability to sense and gauge magical energy has sharpened to a fine edge. He can now see the mana flowing through people like a shimmering current. He notices that both Marie and Rose possess an extraordinary amount of energy, far exceeding anyone else he has encountered in the guild. As they walk back toward the city, the atmosphere grows heavy. Rose points out that despite their efforts, the number of monsters seems to be increasing every day. The Adventurers Guild is constantly overwhelmed with requests for monster suppression. Goblins, which usually stay far from human settlements, are appearing dangerously close to the town. Cheyenne adds to her observation, noting the growing number of homeless and displaced people wandering the streets of Istria. The world feels as though it is tilting toward some unseen crisis. The trio stops by Grast's workshop to escape the tension of the streets. Grast greets them warmly, noting that it is a slow day for business. He reveals a new pair of metal gloves he has finished for Cheyenne, admitting he is surprised by how quickly the boy wears through his equipment. Cheyenne is deeply grateful, as these gloves are essential for channeling his lightning magic safely. Grast marvels at their progress, mentioning that they will likely reach silver rank soon, a feat unheard of for children their age. As they rest, Marie turns to Cheyenne with a serious expression. She asks him what he plans to do once he has mastered all the magic he can imagine. She reminds him that his lightning lamps have changed their home and his spells have saved their lives, but she feels he is destined for something even greater. She recalls their father's warning that special powers influence the world for better or worse, and she encourages Cheyenne to find a purpose for his magic that goes beyond simple survival. Back at the family estate, Cheyenne spars with Gawain to test his newest tactical innovation. He weaves through his father's strikes, casting flare and bolt as distractions. Then he executes a new spell he calls Fall. By driving air magic deep into the earth, he creates a sudden pocket of high pressure that collapses the soil, forming a perfect pitfall. Gawain finds himself trapped waist-deep in the ground, and Cheyenne claims a playful victory. However, Cheyenne is breathing heavily, realizing that the mental strain of casting while moving is physically exhausting. He admits to his father that he needs more physical conditioning. Gawain is impressed by Cheyenne's growth, particularly the way he uses the wind to manipulate the battlefield. Cheyenne admits his true dream is to one day find a way to fly through the sky like a bird, a goal Gawain describes as grand and inspiring. Marie soon joins them, eager to train with her father as well. Cheyenne watches from the sidelines, mesmerized by her speed. She moves with a superhuman fluidity that seems almost impossible. Despite her skill, she eventually loses to Gawain, lamenting that she can never seem to win while Cheyenne succeeds so often. After she leaves, Cheyenne asks his father about her progress. Gawain admits that Marie's strength and reflexes are top class, even compared to adult knights. He wonders if her physical abilities are being fueled by her high magical energy, though he tells Cheyenne not to let the mystery trouble him for now. The following day, the siblings head to the fields to help Rose with the harvest. Rose apologizes for needing the extra hands, but Marie insists that lending a hand is what friends do. Their task is to eliminate a plague of pests, unpleasant maggot-like creatures eating the crops. While Cheyenne and Rose work efficiently, Marie struggles with visible disgust, though she forces herself to keep going. Cheyenne watches her closely, hoping that her usual cheerful demeanor means there is no reason to worry about her strange strength. As the day nears its end, the bright sky suddenly turns dark. A heavy rain begins to fall, and the group prepares to run for the shelter of Rose's house, but as they turn to leave, Marie suddenly collapses. Cheyenne rushes to her side, calling her name in a panic, but she does not respond. Her skin is unnervingly cold to the touch. Gawain and Emma arrive shortly after, their faces pale with terror. They find Marie lying on a bed in Rose's house, her eyes open, but her gaze fixed on nothing. Rose quietly suggests that it might be the lethargy sickness, a mysterious illness sweeping through the region. She explains that victims fall suddenly, like puppets whose strings have been cut. They remain conscious but completely unresponsive, staring into space until they waste away. There is no known cause and no known cure. Emma breaks down in tears, but Gawain snaps into action. He declares that they must get Marie to a doctor in Istria immediately. He orders Cheyenne to stay behind with Emma for safety, but Cheyenne refuses. He argues that the road will be dangerous at night and that Gawain shouldn't have to protect Marie alone. Seeing the determination in his son's eyes, Gawain agrees to let him come along. The carriage races through the dark, rainy night. As Cheyenne watches over his sister, he looks up at the sky and sees something impossible, a shimmering red aurora pulsing through the clouds. He asks his father about the red light, but Gawain is confused, seeing only the flashes of natural lightning. Xian realizes with a jolt that only he can see this strange phenomenon. The journey is interrupted by a pack of bloody wolves, vicious monsters that thrive on human scent. Gawain urges the horse forward while Xian prepares to defend the carriage. Because of the heavy rain, he cannot use his fire or lightning magic without risking a dangerous backfire. He resorts to aqua, gathering the rainwater into dense bullets, and uses blow to fire them like a magical railgun. He manages to strike several wolves, but the pack is too large. Suddenly, the wolves stop their attack and flee into the darkness as if terrified by something far worse. A horrific humanoid figure descends from the sky. It resembles a woman, but its distorted features and ghostly movements are like something from a nightmare. Xian screams for his father to look, but Gawain sees nothing but empty air. Xian realizes the creature must be made of pure magical energy, making it invisible to those without a strong connection to the mana around them. The monster toys with them, its chilling voice echoing in Xian's mind. He fires an aqua bullet, but it passes harmlessly through the creature's spectral form. Desperate and fearing for his life, Xian covers his hands in a dense layer of his own magical energy and reaches out as the monster lunges. When his hand makes contact, the creature's fingers are pulverized, purified by the raw mana. Realizing that his magical energy acts as a cleansing force, Xian leaps into the air and strikes the monster in the torso, completely dissolving it into nothingness. Gawain catches Xian as he falls, terrified by the boy's recklessness. Xian explains that he had no choice. Gawain admits that he was finally able to see a glimpse of the monster when it got close to the magic lanterns on the carriage. He realizes that Xian's invention is the only reason they survived the encounter. They finally reach Istria and rush to the clinic of Dr. Alphonse. The waiting room is a scene of absolute chaos. Dozens of parents are wailing, clutching children who have all fallen victim to the lethargy sickness in a single night. Xian pleads with a doctor to see Marie, but he is told they must wait their turn. When the doctor finally examines Marie, he confirms the diagnosis, but offers no hope. He tells them there is no treatment and that all they can do is watch over her and wait. Xian's heart shatters. He grabs the doctor's coat, weeping and begging him to do his job and save her. He cries out about the promises they made to help Rose in the fields next year, and how unfair it is that someone as kind as Marie is being taken away. Realizing that returning to the village would offer no help, the family decides to remain in the city of Istria to stay close to the center of the medical crisis. In the days following Marie's diagnosis, Grast offers the family a place to stay. He opens up a building he originally intended to use for storage, telling Gawain and Emma to use it as they see fit. Gawain and Emma are deeply moved by his generosity, offering their thanks through a haze of exhaustion. Grast brushes off their gratitude, reminding them of how much they have looked out for him over the years. He admits his own heartbreak over Marie's condition, struggling to understand why such a tragedy would happen to a girl as kind as she is. Though the space is modest, it becomes a quiet sanctuary for the family as they try to process their grief. Xian remains nearly inseparable from his sister. He loses track of time as he sits by her bed, calling her name and waiting for even the slightest flicker of recognition. But Marie remains a statue, her eyes open but her spirit seemingly miles away. The frustration of his own helplessness begins to eat at him, until Gawain enters the room with a firm resolve. He tells Xian that they must leave immediately to meet someone important. Xian is initially defiant. He asks if this person is a doctor who can heal his sister, and when Gawain admits it is nothing of the sort, Xian flatly refuses to go. He declares that he is staying by Marie's side. Gawain challenges him, bringing up the invisible monster they fought 4 nights ago. He points out that while they drove it off, several others have been killed by similar unseen threats across the region. Gawain tells his son that Xian is the only person who possesses the power to see and strike down these monsters. The argument turns heated. Xian snaps that the lives of strangers are not his problem, and that his only concern is the girl lying in the bed beside them. Gawain doesn't flinch. He asks Xian if it will still be someone else's problem if the monster attacks their own village or the town they are currently in. He tells Xian that as a father, he would sell his soul to save Marie, but since he cannot do that, he must do what little he can to save others. He begs his son to help. The turning point comes when Xian remembers Marie's own words. He recalls her telling him that his magic is powerful and that it should be used to help others. He thinks about her selflessness and how she always leaped into action without a single complaint. He realizes that if Marie were standing there, she would likely grab his hand and drag him toward the danger herself. With a heavy sigh, Xian agrees to go, realizing that honoring Marie means doing what she would have done. As they prepare to leave, Xian's senses suddenly tingle. He realizes that in the fog of his grief over the last 4 days, he missed something vital. He rushes out of the house asking his mother to watch over Marie and heads toward the clinic with Gawain following close behind. At the hospital, Cheyenne confirms his theory. He observes the patients suffering from lethargy sickness and realizes that none of them possess even a trace of magical energy. Furthermore, as he looks around the busy streets of Istria, he realizes that the shimmering mana foundations he used to see in common people have vanished entirely. He deduces that the sickness is not random, it is specifically targeting those with the potential for magic. He tells Gawain that since there is no cure, he will have to create one himself, treating the mystery of the illness the same way he treats the development of a new spell. They move to the ducal palace, where they are granted an audience with Duke Balf. The scene is far from the dignified meeting Cheyenne expected. The Duke is in the middle of a full-blown tantrum, weeping and shouting that he wants to quit. He complains that he only wanted to be a duke because he thought it would be easy work, but now he is being plagued by a mysterious sickness and invisible monsters. Gawain remains calm, professionally guiding the Duke through his breakdown and refusing to let him resign in the middle of an emergency. Once the Duke composes himself, they discuss countermeasures. Gawain mentions the effectiveness of the magic lanterns, and Cheyenne explains that the unknown monsters and the sickness are tightly linked to magical energy. When the Duke suggests gathering people with mana foundations to fight the monsters, Cheyenne points out the flaw. Most of those people are already sick. Cheyenne proposes a controversial and dangerous solution: living body experimentation. He explains that since healthy people naturally recover their magical energy after rest, the sickness must be preventing that recovery. He suggests that finding a way to manually transfer or maintain magical energy within a patient might bring them back to health. To avoid hurting innocent people, Cheyenne declares that he will perform these experiments on monsters, using his magic to probe their internal systems. The Duke is impressed by the boy's cold logic and grants him the resources and personnel he needs. The next day, Cheyenne meets his new collaborators. The group is a strange mix of personalities. First is Cole, a medical assistant who makes it clear he thinks working with a child is a waste of his time. He is arrogant and dismissive, only present because the Duke ordered him to be. Next is Rafina, a noblewoman and knight who introduces herself with a long, formal title that gets interrupted when her helmet's visor falls over her face. She is intense and a bit eccentric, though she claims to be a full-fledged warrior. Finally, there is Brigitte, a shy and stuttering expert on monsters. To prove his worth, Cheyenne demonstrates his magic by casting a bolt spell. The sudden appearance of lightning leaves them stunned. He explains the nature of magic and how overusing it leads to a state of exhaustion that mirrors the symptoms of lethargy sickness. He tells them they are going to the forest to find subjects for his research. The hike into the woods proves difficult for the team. Cole stays behind at the clinic, leaving Cheyenne, Brigitte, and Rafina to trek through the wilderness. Rafina struggles immensely with her heavy armor, complaining about the weight as she falls behind on the slopes. Brigitte, meanwhile, is fascinated by Cheyenne's report of the wraith they fought. She grows uncharacteristically excited at the prospect of a new monster type, revealing her deep obsession with monster biology. Cheyenne explains his theory further as they walk. He tells Brigitte that he believes transferring magical energy is the key to a cure, but since mana can be volatile and even lethal when directed at others, he needs to study the reaction inside monsters first. Their discussion is cut short when a goblin warrior emerges from the brush. It is a dangerous creature that Brigitte identifies as an unprecedented threat for this area. Rafina, fed up with her heavy armor and the monster's presence, undergoes a startling transformation. She flexes her body with such force that her metal armor literally bursts off her, shattering into pieces like torn clothing. She declares that the weight was maddening and that she will now show them her full strength. The goblin attacks, slamming Rafina into a tree. Cheyenne tries to assist with an aqua bolt, but the creature is too resilient. However, the distraction gives Rafina the opening she needs. She reveals that she spent years fighting orcs, creatures far stronger than goblins, back in her home region. Without her armor to slow her down, she moves with surprising speed and strikes the goblin down. Cheyenne is impressed by her strength but reminds her that they need the monsters alive for their experiments. Rafina seems to have forgotten their objective in the heat of battle, already looking for the next thing to kill.